When the narcissist says, "I need help," what they really mean is, "I need access." It always starts with urgency. Not small, manageable urgency. Not reasonable adult responsibility. Crisis. Sudden. Emotional. Overwhelming. Something has gone wrong. Someone has betrayed them. They've been treated unfairly. They don't know what they're going to do. And somehow, you are the only one who can fix it. At first it feels intimate. They trust you. They open up to you. You feel chosen. But look closely at the pattern. The narcissist doesn't ask for help the way healthy people do. They don't say, "if you're able." They don't say, "no pressure." They don't ask once and accept your answer. They escalate. Their tone sharpens. Their language becomes dramatic. "If you don't help me, I don't know what will happen. I thought you cared. I guess I just have nobody." It's never a request. It's emotional leverage. Because in their mind, help is not about cooperation. It's about control. And if you hesitate even slightly, the temperature shifts. Now you're cold. Now you're selfish. Now you're abandoning them. Notice something else. When the crisis is theirs, it's catastrophic. When the crisis is yours, it's inconvenient. That contrast is not accidental. The narcissist believes their needs are emergencies. Yours are optional. Every time you rush in, drop everything, fix, fund, defend, or absorb their chaos, you reinforce the system. This series is going to break down the entire pattern. How the emergencies are manufactured. How guilt is applied. How support is never returned. And what happens when you stop responding to the word help the way they expect. Because once you see that their favorite word is a tactic, you stop confusing obligation with loyalty. And that's where the power starts shifting. When the narcissist senses you pulling back, suddenly everything becomes urgent. Not coincidentally, predictably. Watch the timing. You start focusing on yourself. You get busy. You set a boundary. You stop answering immediately, and out of nowhere something explodes. A financial disaster, a workplace crisis, a health scare, a dramatic betrayal by someone else. It always arrives right when your attention drifts. That's not chaos. That's calibration. The narcissist doesn't panic because life is falling apart. They panic because access is slipping. So they escalate the atmosphere. They raise their voice. They amplify the stakes. They create the impression that if you don't intervene immediately, something irreversible will happen. And here's the key. The emergency rarely requires you specifically. It requires an audience. It requires emotional labor, energy, time. It requires you. Manufactured emergencies work because they bypass logic. When someone sounds distressed, your empathy activates before your analysis does. You move first. You think later. And the narcissist depends on that sequence. Ask yourself, why is every crisis somehow tied to your involvement? Because urgency is a leash. If you are constantly responding to chaos, you never have space to evaluate the dynamic. You are too busy putting out fires to ask who keeps striking the match. But when you finally say no and go silent, the power shifts for the first time. When you refuse to be rushed, when you respond instead of react, you start seeing the pattern instead of participating in it. And once you see that the fire only grows when you feed it, You stop volunteering as the extinguisher. In the next chapter, we'll break down the guilt hook, how the narcissist reframes your hesitation as moral failure. When the narcissist realizes urgency isn't working, they reach for something stronger: guilt. This is where the tone changes. The panic softens, the drama fades, and the subtle moral pressure begins. They stop saying, "I need help." They start saying, "Wow, I just thought you were different. I guess I know where I stand now." Notice the shift. The crisis becomes a character test. Your hesitation is no longer practical. It's personal. You're not busy. You're selfish. You're not setting boundaries. You're abandoning them. This is the guilt hook. And it works because you're not heartless. You don't want to be unfair. You don't want to be cold. You don't want to feel like the bad guy. So you overcorrect. You explain. You justify. You rush back in to prove you care. But here's what the narcissist understands. If they can make you defend your character, you'll forget to question their behavior. Guilt flips the spotlight. Suddenly, you're the one on trial. Why aren't you available? Why aren't you prioritizing them? Why are you changing? And this is where it becomes revealing. Healthy people respect your limits, but the narcissist depends on blurred lines. They trained you to associate compliance with love. So when you resist, they weaponize your conscience. You hesitate once, they act wounded. You set one boundary, they behave betrayed. You delay one favor, they imply a pattern. It's strategic exaggeration, because if they can make you feel morally unstable, you'll rush to stabilize yourself by giving in. But the moment you stop defending your character, the hook slips. When you respond calmly, when you don't argue your goodness, something changes. The tactic loses tension, and the narcissist feels it, because guilt only works on someone still trying to prove something. In the next chapter, we'll expose the one-way investment, how you give, and the scale never balances. When the narcissist keeps asking for help, but never shows up for you, it isn't imbalance, it's design. At some point, you start noticing something uncomfortable. You're the one rearranging your schedule. You're the one sending money. You're the one staying up late to listen. You're the one absorbing the chaos. But when it's your turn, silence, excuses, delay. This is the one-way investment. And it doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly. You cover one emergency. You forgive one overstep. You justify one absence. You tell yourself relationships aren't transactional. You tell yourself they'll remember what you've done. They don't. Because a narcissist doesn't track balance. They track access. To them, your support is expected. Theirs is optional. And this is where the manipulator mindset becomes visible. They don't feel indebted. They feel entitled. When you help, it's what you're supposed to do. When they help, it's a favor that must be acknowledged. That double standard isn't accidental. It's structural. They position themselves as the center of gravity. Your resources orbit them. Your time bends around their needs. But their time, their energy, their effort, reserved. And if you ever bring up the imbalance, watch what happens. They minimize it. They reframe it. They remind you of the one time they did show up. Because a manipulator cannot allow the scale to be measured accurately. The illusion only survives if you don't audit the exchange. So here's the shift. Stop looking at what they promise. Start looking at what they return. Stop listening to declarations of loyalty. Start tracking consistency, because one-way investment is not generosity. It's training. You are being conditioned to give without expecting reciprocity. And once you see that, everything changes. In the next chapter, we'll expose selective amnesia. How they forget everything you've done the moment you finally need something back. When the narcissist suddenly forgets everything you've done for them, it's not memory loss, it's strategy. This is the moment most people finally wake up. You've shown up. You've sacrificed. You've rescued them from crises they created. You've defended them, funded them, emotionally stabilized them. And then one day, you need something. Not even something dramatic. Just support. Just presence. Just reciprocity. And the response is cold, detached, confused. What are you talking about? I never asked you to do all that. You chose to help. Selective amnesia. The narcissist rewrites history the second it becomes inconvenient. Because acknowledgement creates debt. And debt threatens superiority. If they admit how much you've done, they owe you. If they owe you, the power dynamic shifts. So the manipulator edits the story. Your sacrifices become exaggerations. Your loyalty becomes expectation. Your help becomes irrelevant. Notice something else. When they need you, the past matters. They bring up every favor you didn't do, every hesitation, every boundary. But when you need them, the ledger disappears. This is not forgetfulness. It is control through narrative. They reshape memory so they never stand in obligation. And here's where it gets sharp. The moment you calmly recount specifics, dates, actions, sacrifices, watch the discomfort. They deflect. They minimize. They attack your tone because accuracy corners them. Selective amnesia only works when you doubt your own memory. That's the deeper tactic. If they can make you question the reality of what you gave, you'll stop expecting balance altogether. But once you stop arguing history, once you stop trying to convince them of what happened, something shifts. You no longer need their validation. You no longer need acknowledgement. You simply adjust your access. And that's when the narcissist feels the loss of leverage. In the next chapter, we'll look at what happens when you finally ask for help and watch the excuses begin. When the narcissist realizes you're asking for support instead of providing it, watch how quickly the energy changes. This is the turning point. For once, you're not responding to their crisis. You're not stabilizing their chaos. You're not solving, funding, or defending. You're asking. And suddenly the atmosphere shifts. The urgency disappears. The passion fades. The enthusiasm you've shown them for years is nowhere to be found. Instead, you get delays. I'm swamped right now. I've got a lot going on. Can we talk about this later? Notice the difference. When they needed you, time was critical. But when you need them, time stretches. Days pass. Messages go unanswered. Calls are missed. This is not coincidence. It's hierarchy. The narcissist sees themselves as the recipient of support, not the distributor of it. And here's the deeper layer. When you ask for help, you threaten the structure. Because asking forces equality. It forces them into the position you've been in. And they don't like that. So the manipulator defaults to distance. They become vague, non-committal, strangely irritated. You'll even sense subtle resentment because your need interrupts their narrative of being the center. And if they do offer help, it comes with strings, reminders, future leverage, subtle tallying. Unlike your consistent giving, theirs feels transactional. That contrast is revealing. Healthy relationships move in both directions naturally. With a narcissist, support only flows one way unless you demand it. And here's where clarity hits hard. The moment you calmly observe the imbalance, without anger, without begging, you see it clearly. You were never a partner. You were a resource. Once you stop volunteering as supply, their tone shifts again, because now the entitlement is exposed. In the next chapter, we'll examine the entitlement switch, why they believe your resources belong to them, but theirs never belong to you. When a narcissist starts acting like your time, energy, and resources belong to them, that's not confidence, that's entitlement. This is where the mask slips in a different way. Up until now, their requests were wrapped in urgency, then guilt, then selective memory, then avoidance when you asked for balance. But now, they stop pretending. They speak as if access to you is automatic. Why wouldn't you help? You're being dramatic. That's just what people do for each other. Notice the framing. Helping them is normal. Questioning it is selfish. This is the entitlement switch. The narcissist stops asking and starts assuming. Your time is theirs to book. Your money is theirs to borrow. Your emotional energy is theirs to consume. But their time, their support, their effort, off limits. And if you push back even slightly, watch what happens. They look confused, offended, almost insulted that you would suggest reciprocity. Because in their mind, the hierarchy is natural. They are the priority. You are the support system. The manipulator doesn't see imbalance. They see structure. And if this is resonating with you, if you've lived through this quiet entitlement, leave your experience in the comments. Not for drama, not for validation, but because you're not invisible here. You are being seen. Now watch the language they use. You always do this. You never support me. You've changed. That last one is important. When you stop complying automatically, you've changed. Not because you became cruel, because you stopped being convenient. And here's the cold truth. Entitlement survives on access. The moment you restrict access, calmly, without theatrics, the energy shifts again. Because now they're not confident. They're unsettled. In the next chapter, we'll look at the disappearing act. What happens when it's your turn to need something, and they simply vanish? When the narcissist realizes you're no longer overextending for them, they don't argue, they disappear. This is one of the most revealing tactics of all. When it's their emergency, you're essential. When it's your moment of need, you're optional. You reach out. You explain. You're calm. You're clear. And instead of resistance, you get absence. Short replies. Delayed responses. Vague commitments. Or nothing at all. The narcissist vanishes the moment support flows in the opposite direction. This is not coincidence. It's preservation. If they show up fully for you, the illusion collapses. It confirms equality. It confirms reciprocity. And that threatens the hierarchy they've built. So they withdraw. And then something else happens. They wait. They expect you to chase. Because historically you would have. You would have followed up, clarified, softened your request, made it easier for them. But this time you don't. And that silence hits harder than confrontation ever could. The manipulator feels the shift immediately because they understand leverage. And your non-pursuit removes it. Here's the truth most people miss. The disappearing act is not strength, it's exposure. It reveals that their presence was always conditional. Conditional on benefit, conditional on advantage, conditional on control. When the benefit stops, so do they. And that realization is sobering. If this content is resonating, if you've experienced the vanish when you need them dynamic, this is exactly what we break down here on the Silent Regime channel. We dissect narcissistic tactics in order. We expose the psychology behind them. And we teach you how to recognize the pattern before it drains you again. If you value clarity over chaos, consider subscribing. Now back to the shift. When you don't chase their absence, something cracks. Because they expected pursuit. Instead, they encounter indifference. And indifference is something they cannot control. In the next chapter, we'll cover what happens when you stop helping entirely, and how quickly the narrative flips against you. Have you noticed how the narcissist suddenly changes the story about you the moment you stop helping? That shift is not random. It's strategic. You stopped rushing to fix their chaos. You stopped being the emergency contact for problems they created. And instead of accountability, you get distortion. Now you're selfish, cold, different. The same person who leaned on you now questions your character. This is the smear, and it exists for one reason: narrative control. If they admit you stepped back because the dynamic was one-sided, they lose moral ground. If they admit they overused you, they lose leverage. So they flip it. They imply you weren't supportive. They suggest you abandoned them. The manipulator cannot afford accuracy, because accuracy exposes imbalance, and imbalance exposes entitlement. Here's the psychological twist. Smearing you also protects their ego. If you left because you saw through them, that means they were transparent. If you left because they overplayed their hand, that means they miscalculated. So instead, they position themselves as the victim of your change. And for a moment, just a moment, you may question yourself. Did I overreact? Was I too harsh? Did I cut them off too cleanly? That doubt is conditioning. It's what remains after years of being trained to overfunction. But hear this clearly. You did not abandon them. You stopped volunteering as a resource. You did not become cruel. You became clear. And if you've made it this far in this series, if you've recognized urgency, guilt, entitlement, disappearance, and now narrative twisting, I want you to understand something deeply. You were not imagining it. You were not too sensitive. You were not unstable. You were slowly waking up. There is nothing wrong with walking away from a structure designed to drain you. If this feels familiar, that's because you lived it. And surviving it, seeing it, standing your ground through it, is strength. In the final chapter, we'll examine the power shift, what happens when you stop showing up entirely, and the entire system collapses without you. What happens to a narcissist when the person they depended on finally stops showing up? The structure collapses, not dramatically, not loudly, but inevitably. For a long time, the dynamic survived on your participation, your empathy, your patience, your willingness to explain yourself, your habit of fixing what they broke. You were the stabilizer in a system designed to favor them. When you withdraw that stability, the imbalance becomes visible. They test the door first. A casual message, a subtle probe, a just checking in. If that doesn't work, the tactics return, but weaker. Urgency without crisis, guilt without weight, nostalgia without warmth. It feels forced, because it is. The narcissist realizes something unsettling. The control they thought they had was cooperation, and cooperation is voluntary. Once you see the tactics, you can't unsee them. Once you recognize the performance, it loses its effect. And once you stop responding predictably, the manipulator is left improvising. And they're not as good at that as they pretend to be. Here's the quiet truth. You didn't defeat them with confrontation. You defeated the dynamic by stepping out of it. You removed access. You removed emotional leverage. You removed the automatic compliance they relied on. And without those, the hierarchy dissolves. They may attempt one final reframing, one last attempt to rewrite you, but it won't land the same. Because now you understand the structure, and understanding makes repetition impossible. If this series resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in these patterns, consider sharing this video with someone who might still be trapped in that cycle. Not as drama, not as retaliation, but as clarity. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can give someone is language for what they've been experiencing. And if this helped you find that language, that's the shift. The narcissist loses control. You regain sovereignty. And once that happens, there is no returning to the old dynamic, only consequence.